My name is Roger Smith. I am the manager of the Temple Theatre. I've been here 6 years. To give you a little background on me, I was a news pilot reporter for 21 years in Dallas, and I have been to every conceivable catastrophe from the Waco standoff with David Koresh on down. I've been at every crash, Delta 191 and all of them, so I've seen a lot of stuff. I was never a believer in, never really a believer in, let's say, ghosts. I thought there could possibly be layered dimensions, sort of like a radio station. Like your radio, you're listening to one station and you just move it a little bit and you have another, voice and program come in. I do know enough, being a pilot and my whole life devoted to aviation. I do know that all of the theoretical physicists of the world really have no true understanding of time or space or gravity. They theorize about it, but they don't really know. And so a theoretical physicist would be like you getting on an airplane with a theoretical pilot. I don't think you would like that. So with that said, from what I have learned and what I am learning, I think that there are time and space layered over us somehow. That it is another, to use an old-fashioned phrase, another dimension that is over us somehow. And sometimes I think that you get bleed over like on your radio. And that's what I think that I have encountered here at the Temple Theatre. Like I say, I came here 6 years ago, and everybody was always pushing me, oh, let's do haunted temple tours. The theater's haunted, and there was an opera star that died on stage. He actually died in the audience, but he had sung on stage and then died out in the audience. But so in the 6 years that I have lived here in the theater, I have heard a lot of unusual sounds that were not any kind of a normal sound. I did hear one night a real loud sound of like a bald eagle screaming in this ballroom. It was a clear sound, and it was loud. Okay, so we were not going to do the temple tours this year, but due to a lot of our new volunteers who are really doing a great job here and keeping the theater going and giving me a little bit of time off, they said, no, let's do it. So to give something a little different, I'm going to show you all the 3 distinct instances where I very unsuspectingly encountered 3 people that were there and then they were no longer there, okay? And it's not a thing where they looked foggy or like an apparition. It is a true person. The other thing that is interesting, that all 3 times they seemed to see me and they wanted to avoid me, which I found interesting because in my mind it was somebody that was here at the theater when I first saw them. But when they were no longer there and had no place to escape, that's when I became nauseated because I knew that I had experienced something that was not the norm. So with that introduction, I'm going to show you where the first event, and I named them the Amish lady, strictly because the way she was dressed, or the Mennonite lady. And then the other one was the man in black, because he was dressed in black. And then the other one, the last thing that I had was I refer to as the walking blonde-headed man. So without further ado, I'm going to show you where and how it led up to the Amish lady. And you have to understand where this actually took place in the stairwell is currently under construction. So it's going to look a little messy. It's not going to look exactly the way it was because we're putting up new doors. So we'll go now to where the Amish lady was. Okay, when we first started the interview, we were in the ballroom where you all are amassed prior to the tour. And I'd been to the grocery store and I had 3 or 4 bags of the little plastic bags full of groceries. And I always enter this door. And what I did is I set my groceries down, I put my key in the door, and I opened the door. And when I opened the door, I saw a lady turning around like she was trying to avoid me. And I only saw the back part of her, and she was like in a blue flannel kind of dress, like a Mennonite or a Amish lady, like you would see at Walmart. I don't know any other way to put it. I didn't see her head. I only saw her skirt and torso and her right leg. And she was turning around and going up the steps to avoid me. And I saw her shoe, and it was that nondescript flat shoe that Mennonite people wear. And so I'll show you the stairwell. Don't get caught on this wood here, Chris. Okay, this is where a personnel door should be, but we're under construction. And that is the stairwell. I'll shine the flashlight so you can see a little bit better. That's a stairwell. None of this wood and stuff was here. This is, again, all due to the door construction. And so I opened this door, and as soon as I opened the door, I saw the lady turn right there, and I saw her foot and her leg was just a, regular kind of non-tan white leg, and I thought it was maybe one of the volunteers or maybe one of the actor kids that somehow had been in here late in the theater. And of course, there's no way that that door is locked and that you can't go anywhere up there other to my living quarters. And so I was prepared, to say, hey, what's going on? There was nobody there. So that's the first thing that I saw was the lady, the Amish lady, which again was very strange and not a fuzzy apparition. Okay, can you see?
Yeah, now I can.
Okay, we're now on the stage of the Temple Theater, and we had just had a show, and the theater had been cleared for about an hour, and I was doing some cleanup work, and I was tired, and so I was sitting here, just like this, on this radiator, and I had a clear view of that door that you see open going into sunlight. That door was closed, and then there's another door, and we'll walk over there. But I was sitting here just kind of staring out in the audience into the theater, just kind of resting, And that's when I saw that door open, and a man came through that door, and I could tell he was startled that he saw me because of his body language. And I didn't react. I was real cool about it. And I just kept kind of obliquely looking out that direction. And I seen the guy kind of quietly close the door behind him, and he went down that hallway. And so I waited here maybe 10 seconds, and I quietly walked this way because I didn't have a clue as to who it was or what. And I quietly walked here, and that's when I realized that that steel fire door was closed. It's normally open like that. These doors are never used. They were back for in the olden days, and this door was closed like that. And so I knew that it wasn't my imagination because I had just been through here. So I knew there was a person in here. And the way the person reacted, this door, I'm going to show you exactly what happened and how the guy reacted. He opened the door, and then he saw me, and I could tell he was kind of startled, and he did just like this. It didn't squeak like that though. And then he went down here. Okay, so that's when I went back here. I knew that there was a person in here. And I called the police department, and I told them, I said, bring 3 cops down here and bring a dog. I said, there's somebody in this theater. And so the policemen, when they came, I explained to them the situation, and they were a little bit spooked by it. You know, not to use, a pun on words or a cliche. Long story short, we spent at least 3 hours. We even took the dog in the attic, up the ladder. There was not one area that we missed in this building. We checked every attic space, every air conditioning space, and you would have heard, if he'd gone out one of the doors, you would hear them, because we had really bad doors at that time, and you could not go out without rattling them. We looked and looked and looked for 3 hours. We put the dog up in the attic. Nothing, nothing, nothing. So that was that. Okay, so that night I was a little bit edgy, and I took a light like that little light there, and I clamped it on one of the railings out there in the theater, which is called a ghost light. And it was just one of those nondescript aluminum things like you get at Lowe's with the clamp on it. So I clamped it in there that night, and I didn't really sleep too well. And the next morning when I got up and came in here, I noticed that that light was laying on the ground. And so no one had been in here, because I'm the only one here, and I went over there, and the light was laying on the ground, and the aluminum thing, it was as if somebody took their hand and smashed it around it. And there's no way that the fall, I recreated it, it was smashed together. And that was a little bit weird. And so I pulled it apart and put it back in place. And the very next night, it did the same thing. It was there, it had been recrushed, laying on the ground. And so then I knew something was definitely not right, and I moved it up here on stage, and like this one, and then there was never a problem. And so there was a, so the next night, I was getting ready to turn the air conditioning on because we had a show the next day. And I flipped it on like I have every time. And when I did, it was as if it scared something up there, kind of big, and all this gravel and dust and dirt and everything fell down like there was something maybe resting up there by the air conditioner way up in the attic. And when I turned it on, it startled whatever it was, and it all fell down. You know, it knocked some gravel or whatever it was, and you could hear it cascading all the way down the shaft. Called the police back. We looked everywhere again. Nothing. We went everywhere and could never find an answer to that. We're going to go now to the last thing that has happened to me, which was really weird, and I'll show you that. Are you ready? Okay, this is the last thing that has really happened to me, and it made me nauseated for 2 days because it was right there, and it was in broad daylight. And I guess what was upsetting to me is that I had another person with me. So the other person would be you recording, and we were standing here talking, this is during the daytime, and I'm talking away, and all of a sudden a man walks by rapidly, a blonde-headed grown man, like he was really going somewhere, walked right by, and I stopped, and I said, "Did you see that? A guy just walked by." And of course, naturally, the person didn't see it because he wasn't facing me, but this is exactly what I saw. And the person was walking this fast. And there's no place for the person to go, okay? The door is locked. You would hear the door bang and close. It was a man, a blonde-headed grown man, rapidly walking like he was going somewhere, like you would see somebody walking down a sidewalk really briskly. And he would have had to gone through that door. And it was really bizarre that, you know, that it would happen right there in daylight with somebody here. And that person to me seemed to not really notice us. He was so intent on where he was going that he didn't look at us. I mean, we were right here, and I'm talking loudly, and he didn't turn and even acknowledge that we were there. And it was maybe a 54-year-old guy about that tall with kind of blonde, scruffy, curly hair, kind of a rough-looking guy. And that's it. That's my 3 stories. I mean, I've been here 6 years, like I say, and the only other thing that is a little bit weird is the orb deal that's on YouTube that the security camera caught. And I never really believed in orbs, but I've kind of become educated to that. And you can look on it, it's on YouTube, and it doesn't behave like a bug. It's a very fluid thing that seems to be on a mission somewhere. I mean, it seems like it knows where it's going. And, you know, I have gotten to be, I've heard a lot of things. I've heard my name called. I've heard all kind of stuff. And unless it's coming right in on me, I don't even get up anymore. Because I've been here 6 years, nothing's happened to me. And I'm always armed, and so I'm not really afraid. But I do hear really weird stuff that is not like just a building creaking. And all the other people that have been here, even the ones that have participated in the haunted house, said that stuff has happened to them, and they've been grabbed and all kind of stuff. So the Temple Theater was voted the second most haunted entity in the state of Mississippi. So enjoy your tour. It's an old building. There were tunnels connecting it to the funeral home over there that have since been sealed. And there's places in this theater that after 6 years, frankly, I have not even seen. So have fun and use the bathroom before you go on the tour.